True Grit, directed by the Coen brothers, starring Haley Steinfeld, Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, and Josh Brolin. It's a western based on a book under the same title, and it's in fact the second Hollywood adaptation of that book after the 1969 version with John Wayne. This version ended up being the most profitable of all Coen brothers movies thus far. It also was nominated for 10 Oscars, but failed to win even one of them. The story is extremely simple. A teenage girl has her father killed by a hired worker who then escapes into an Indian country. She hires a marshal to help bring him back, dead or alive, but insists on going along with the marshal to ensure that the deed is done. They also end up being joined by a Texas Ranger who is also on the trail of that very same criminal. That's it, one of the most classic Western tropes. A bunch of characters going on pursuit, chasing a villain through the American frontier. But this skeletal story is executed quite well in True Grit, and it never feels lacking, and I think this is mainly due to the central two performances. Jeff Bridges as the Marshal is great as usual. He really brings the character of this aging, drunken bounty hunter to life, and is very entertaining in recalling his life stories to the girl that hired him. She, in turn, is played by Haley Steinfeld, who is mesmerizing and, in fact, one of the youngest people to be nominated for an acting Oscar ever, at the age of just 14 when the film was made. On paper, having that central character of a Western be a teenage girl is a risky move to me. One, because it can easily disrupt the suspension of disbelief. Two, because teenage actors are typically rather weak, which, stands to reason because they lack experience. Both of these traps have been avoided in this film. Steinfeld is believable, charismatic, and engaging, but she's also vulnerable and imperfect. I think out of the main cast, Matt Damon ends up being the least impressive of all, but to be fair, he also doesn't have as much to work with in terms of the script. The production design is great. Sets, costumes, locations. So is the cinematography done by the legendary Roger Deakins. Interestingly enough, this was the last movie he ever shot on film. All of his subsequent projects up until now, he's shot digitally. I also liked how the story of the film feels like it takes place in a wider world. Like, we get these glimpses of other characters and events taking place in this world, and our story is just one of many that are going on. I think that having that feeling in a film that of this type shows signs of solid world building. I will say though that compared to other Coen brother movies, this one lacked that sort of magical spark for me. It is a solid movie, no doubt, with no glaring flaws to speak of, but from this pair of directors, I've gotten used to experiencing this little special something. I missed that in True Grit, unfortunately. I had fun watching it, I appreciate it for the good movie that it is, but I don't think it will hold a special place in my heart. It's not going to be a film to return to.